Well, this is Dave, and today's big hairy idea is tools to discover and uncover your origin story. So all week long we've been talking about this concept of origin stories, the stories that make us who we are. They're usually difficult experiences that we come out stronger on the other side of, and we can then turn around and help other people who are experiencing that same shift. But what if you're not certain about what your origin story is? What if you're not clear what experiences really fit into that idea, into that category? So part of the origin story, first of all, a couple points to clarify. One, you can have multiple origin stories. There's no doubt at different points in your life you went through different realizations, different shifts, and each of those is really an origin story. In fact, if you think back to your biggest origin story, and you think about like the day before that origin story, if someone had asked you then, what was your origin story, you would have been able to come up with something. Because there's something, a story that helped you become who you were then, and then the next day you had that huge experience that helped you become who you were after that. So you can have multiple one of these stories. But usually these stories have a very similar structure to them. Usually you were a certain way, you had a certain character, you had certain strategies, whatever it was, and they took you so far. And at that point, you hit a wall and you couldn't go any further. And often that wall was really difficult. It really dragged you down. And at a certain point, you had some kind of breakdown, some kind of difficult experience, but that made you reassess, re-understand, and that new understanding took you to that next step. It took you to a step further. As I was giving my origin story before, earlier this week, I was talking about how my business was actually going incredibly well. It was almost like a gift from above, how incredibly easily it went. And I took it for granted. And I thought, well, it was probably due to all of my brilliance and everything that I did all these things. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to do more brilliant stuff. I'm going to try hiring these people and getting them to do that. And every time I tried new things, the initial success had come so easy. And every time I tried to grow it and be strategic and do things, usually the more effort I put into things, the more ideas I came up with, the worse the business did. And it really became clear that, wow, I was just in the right place at the right time. I hadn't really mastered myself this tremendous lexicon of business tools. I was just lucky. And then when I tried to duplicate my success, it was a failure. And when I tried to grow things, it just took it the wrong direction. And I had to grow myself. I had to be more. I had to get to this point of saying, wow, everything I'm trying is failing here. I like the prestige of having this big business and hiring all these people and running this successful company, but really I haven't earned it. And the more I try to fake being this big CEO with this huge staff that I can't afford, the more it's just going to sink me into debt. I need to really face hard facts, learn business skills, and be able to then take me to the other side of the wall that I was on. So again, you think about any time that you kind of who you were, the strategies you had, brought you so far, brought you up to a certain wall. And then usually a painful experience, usually a difficult experience, doesn't have to be, but it usually is, made you stop, reassess, say, you know what, the way I've been doing things, it's not working, it's not getting me to the next step. I need, the strategies that got me here can't get me any further. I need a new attitude, new strategies, a new technique of going on there. And that realization is usually the origin story. And it can help anybody who's here, anybody who's gotten to the same wall that you're at, but hasn't gotten past. It can help them, you can help them by sharing your story, how you were in that spot and you got past that. You can help them figure out that, oh, so that's how you go to that next step. That's how you go over that. And it often most likely won't be such a big origin story for them because you've helped them through that process. They didn't have to go to that really difficult, dark place that I know I went to when my business was falling to pieces. If I had had somebody who said, oh, Dave, look at this. You don't have the revenue to do this. You're the appropriate percent of your business's revenue that should be going into paying staff should be X, and you're at like 5 times X, so you need to be taking a step back. If I had someone who did that, I'd been like, oh. And I would have been able to make the steps without going through that incredibly difficult situation. I wouldn't have learned that lesson necessarily in my guts. I wouldn't have necessarily had this huge motivation to turn around and help other people with that same realization because it hadn't been a difficult one for me. So usually the origin stories are when we face that difficult challenge, get ourselves to a new level of understanding internally, externally, we're able to move past it. So anything you've got like that in your life can be an origin story. And again, you can have many of them. And if you've gone through that experience, it's incredibly powerful, both to you and to others, to turn around and say, hey, you're where I was. I know how to get to that next step. Please, let me help you get there without going through the same struggles that I went through to get to that next point.